help out the Dr.Wily channel by clicking the sponsor button below. This way you can financially support us and get some cool perks in the process. Now, back in 2017, I made a video about the Thwomps where I also covered the Whomps a bit. However, I think they need their own video, because these mighty beings made of stone have their own society with a king and are seen in a lot of games. And with the Nintendo Switch classic Super Mario Odyssey being out, a new type has even been added. So let's find out how these giant stone creatures evolved in terms of gameplay, use, story, and design. Now all of this started way back in the 1990s when Nintendo was experimenting with the one franchise that made them what they are today. The company needed to stay fresh and follow the trend of 3D games, and so the Super Mario series changed a lot. It went from the classic 2D side-scroller to a 3D open-world platformer, going from something quite basic to extremely complicated compared to it. And so Nintendo had to come up with new enemies that made use of this new 3D gimmick, and this is where the Whomp comes in. These large stone enemies resemble rectangles with snaggle-toothed faces, simple hands and arms, and legless feet. They were seen for the first time in Super Mario 64, where they have their own fortress and even have a king. Now their attack strategy is similar to the Thwomps in that they try to crush you. But here it actually makes use of the 3D world. When it sees you, it will try to crush you by falling over, and to defeat it you need to ground pound on the weak spot, which is on their back. Now first we will talk about the ways these creatures attack and why it works so well in 3D platformer games. These levels overall were quite open and you had a lot of new movement options, making the platforming actually complex for the first time. In 2D Mario games you couldn't do side flips, backwards jumps, kicks, punches and more crazy stuff. So something as basic as the normal Thwomps wouldn't really work, unless you heavily restrict the player's movements in these sections. In order to solve this, they incorporated these complex moves into the fight with such a creature. First you need to be quick to get out of the way so you won't get crushed. After that you also need to be quick with jumping on its back and ground pounding before it stands up again. So beating this enemy requires fast platforming moves, and the better you are, the faster you can beat it. But what about their fortress and king? Well, it's never really explained where it is and how it all came to be. So basically we know nothing. All we know is that it's found within a painting in Peach's castle, and their king has the same tactics, but just has more health. But there's one interesting thing that their king mentions when you confront him at the top of the fortress. He says, "It makes me so mad. We build your houses, your castles, we pave your roads, and still you walk all over us. Do you ever say thank you? No. Well, you're not going to wipe your feet on me." Now this is an interesting statement, because if this is really true, then it means that the buildings seen in the Mushroom Kingdom are actually made by the Whomps, even the castle that Peach lives in. And in the end, they felt betrayed and used by the people, forming a rebellion and their own kingdom in time. Now, Nintendo never mentioned this again, and the only time we see it is if we battle King Whomp in any of the games he is seen in, like the DS remake and one of the Galaxy games. So we don't really know what happened, but it's clear that there was a reason why they formed their own kingdom. Now after this, the Whomps weren't actually seen in a 3D game, because the next in line where they appeared was the first new Super Mario Bros. Game, which was 2D. 3 of them appear in this game and use the same model as in Super Mario 64 DS. When it comes to their behavior, nothing really changed. But one minor thing is different though, because it's in 2D now. Because instead of walking around, they simply stand still in the background, waiting for the player to approach. Once on the floor, Mario can ground pound the Whomp's back to destroy it. In my opinion, this was a bit of a downgrade, because the special role they had in the 3D games is basically gone now. They were different compared to the Thwomps in Super Mario 64, but here they're basically the same. However, they did give them one new function in the levels, which does play a role in the platforming. For example, to get across an area filled with spikes, using the Whomp as a temporary platform to stand on. However, it's barely used, sadly enough. So really, it didn't play a big role at all. Even another type of Thwomp that's bigger and can walk around for a bit wasn't even used in a good way. So this title didn't really add anything to the enemy. It had some good ideas, but those weren't really used in the end. Luckily enough, the next 3D title it appeared in did change some things and they made it better. Because in Super Mario Galaxy 2, many of their physical features changed. The Whomp's body features are more rectangular, their textures much more smooth, and their eyes are no longer unfocused. Their characteristic bandages are no longer present as well. Instead, they now bear the ground pound symbol on their back. They can also take you out right away by crushing you once, making them a huge threat compared to the previous games. So in general, they became harder to hit and also deal a lot more damage than before. Another thing Nintendo worked on more is making them part of the environment by giving the option to the player to use it like an actual wall, which means you can wall jump on them. This is handy when trying to get certain high floating objects such as a comet medal and a green star. Whomp's fortress and everything associated with it also makes a return, but it's not that different really. However, they did give the Whomp King a new ability, calling in patons, which are small whomps that will help their king. They are basically the same but are killed more easily. Something to keep you busy so you can't run away and will be crushed. Quite a clever addition to the whole fight, because it certainly makes getting out of there harder. But sadly enough, this is kind of where it ends. Sure, they were seen in New Super Mario Bros. 2, but they're basically the same as the ones seen in the first. However, in Super Mario Odyssey, they did introduce a completely new version of them that's similar, but in my opinion, even better. The Stairface Ogres. An enormous enemy wielding a stamp-like mallet found predominantly in Bowser's Kingdom. They are called the locals of this kingdom within the in-game brochure. They attack by smashing their mallet down on you, but if you dodge that, you can climb on their weapon to take them out just like a whomp. In my opinion, this attack works better. There's more complex platforming involved. Their design is also completely different, looking like a mythological Oni, which is sometimes seen as a Japanese counterpart to the ogre. Even their role in level elements has improved, because you can use them to break blocks, which is useful for revealing items inside them. So overall, a better looking, more fun to fight, and useful enemy. And that's where it ends, so far. Because maybe we will see this enemy more in the future. Who knows what will happen in Super Mario Maker 2. Thanks for watching everybody, I hope you enjoyed. This was absolute hell for me. I hate voiceovering, I have a burning, insane passion in terms of hatred for it. So please like this video, subscribe, and watch more videos, because this is just pure agony for me.